Welcome back to The Short Game. This is a show where we talk about short video games. The kind of thing that you can pick up and complete in an evening or a weekend. Video games that respect your time. I'm your host, Reagan Kelly, and I am joined this week by two awesome co-hosts. My real-life twin brother, Shane Kelly. How are you doing, Shane?
Oh, I'm doing really, I'm pretty hot.
Super. And I am joined also by Nate Heininger. How are you doing, Nate?
Super hot. Super hot.
Super hot.
Super.
And
hot.
we are here this week to talk about the most innovative shooter I've played in years. Superhot.
Absolutely.
This game didn't exactly come out of nowhere. It's kind of been on our radar for a long while, and it's been kind of like, I think...
Yeah, Regan, how long have I been talking about this game?
Years now. Like, I put
this on the very first outline that we did for the short game. I was trying to convince everybody to play the browser-based version. I can't believe we waited until now when the actual full release comes out.
Yeah, I don't play a lot of browser-based games, and actually I tried to fire this one up at one point. This game, if you played the original version that came out in 2013, it uses the Unity web player. It's still up if you're kind of curious about the concept. But the problem for me was that for whatever reason, it never worked, and Unity web player games rarely do for me. I don't know if it's a Safari issue or what, but I even tried it again recently. And when I play this game, like, you hit one key on the keyboard, like the W to move forward, and it sticks. Like, it won't let me not keep moving forward, which in this game is completely ruins the game.
That is specifically of all games to mess up. This one is hurt the most by you not being able to stop moving.
Exactly. So I never got to play more than a moment or two of this game without it not working. And I just never got around to trying to troubleshoot that problem. I mean, Unity web player is just kind of, it's kind of bad. But the full release of this is totally rad and plays great.
Let me give the basic pitch of this game, which is what you'd see in the first 3 seconds of actually firing up the game. It is a first-person shooter where time moves only when you move. These words flash on screen, and you are assaulted by little red prismatic dudes. And they've got guns, and they shoot at you. And if you walk, their bullets will fly towards you. But if you stop walking, their bullets will hang in midair, a la bullet time. It's kind of a small tweak to what otherwise would be a very by the numbers, very minimalist, but incredibly difficult first-person shooter. Being able to kind of control the flow of the action and look around and do things much faster than your normal reaction time would allow you to do. It takes this game up to, from being a kind of a normal FPS and makes it more strategic. You have to think and plan your actions, and you have to kind of fight your way through each situation using, every possible second of movement that you have. Does that basically sum up the game to you guys?
Yeah, it almost makes combat. It's not turn-based. That's not the right way to put it, but it almost feels that way because at any moment, or it's like a pause that would allow you to still look around. Basically, you can at any moment just pause combat, look around, and decide your next move.
Yeah, not to relate it back to a game that we talk about too much on this show, but in that way, it's a little like FTL.
Yeah, you know what? I of course I thought that, and I was like, I'm not going to be the guy who says this.
I know,
because I'm always the guy who's
like.
It is.
Although
it's very
one kind of really interesting thing about it is that I didn't expect looking around to count as movement, but it does. If you spend your time looking back and forth, time does progress a little bit as you do that.
It's very minuscule, but it does, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
you're right. I didn't think it did at first, but after some experimenting with
it makes a difference because sometimes I'll look behind me and realize there's a bullet right there. Boom.
Yeah, and in fact, even if you do absolutely nothing, time does creep forward very, very, very slowly. There's a just enough that if you get really indecisive about what to do next, you're probably going to get shot.
Yeah, I actually learned that because I walked out of the room while I was playing, and it would take like about every 2 or 3 minutes I would hear like "la" of my guy getting shot, and that's like how long it would take for the first bad guy to like spawn and get into the room where my character was standing and shoot and kill me. So it's when you're not moving, it is like I mean, it's almost unnoticeable. It's only if you really spend a long time. And then when you're kind of moving, like when you're turning your head around, time's moving really slow. But when you're pressing either WAS or D, you're moving in real time. And it really works really, really well because what's cool is you get these moments of feeling like just a normal first person shooter. 3 or 4 bad guys are coming at you. You're running around shooting them. But at any moment, you can almost like, I don't know, like Max Payne, I guess, kind of
Mm-hmm.
stop everything and really take your time. And it allows you to pull off some really, really badass moves.
Yeah.
Some brutal kills.
And actually, what I think is really neat about this is that, you know, you've played other shooters that have bullet time. Max Payne is a great example, you know, but that's always been kind of the reward for good play is you get this flashy bullet time moment. But this isn't bullet time as you've seen it in other games. In other games, you know, when you fire off bullet time, you're suddenly moving faster than all of the other action on screen. You're able to do things at your normal pace, and everyone else is slowed way down. But here, you're actually still moving and able to do stuff at basically the same pace as your enemies. It's really just that you have this enormous advantage in reaction time and in the ability to like analyze the situation. So like you're not really getting an advantage over them in anything except being able to see what's going on and react before they can react.
Yeah, and there's no health bar. It's one hit kill. If you get shot, if you get punched by an enemy, you're gone. So you just have to keep yourself completely safe and take on the enemies. The enemies are not going to slow down. They're going to go straight for you. They are really well animated,
And they're kind of intelligent.
They have some cool reactions. Like if you shoot one that's right next to the other guy, he's going to like look over at him, but then he's going to go right back to shooting at you.
Or like one that I kind of experienced is that it was me and a bad guy on the other end of on the other side of a pillar, and I would like try to loop around one side of the pillar, and it would, like we're both on two ends of a table trying to get at each other thing. Like he would go the opposite way that I went to try to get behind me, and then like one time I cut back to go back to the other corner, and he was there waiting with his gun pointed forward. So like they do have some intelligence as to like obviously mimic your movements or predict your movements to a degree.
Yeah, they're not totally predictable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really big improvement over the original version of the game. I read a couple of reviews and other things from when their initial, prototype version came out in 2013. By the way, that came out as a part of a game jam. Actually, it was a 7-day FPS game jam where people had to create an FPS within 7 days, and the internet went absolutely insane for it. And there were articles all over the place. Kotaku and Rock Paper Shotgun and Wired and all sorts of other sites had articles up about it. And people were all uniformly like, hey, you have to check out this game. It's the most innovative shooter I've played in years. And yet, a lot of them did criticize the fact that the enemy AI was really minimal, and it kind of made it feel like you were like, there wasn't enough challenge. And what they've really done is they've made the AIs smart enough to be a challenge for you, even though you've got this insane superpower of basically controlling time.
Yeah. And they also, not only do they make the AI smarter, they put you in situations that are absurd. So this game is basically broken into like tiny little vignettes, little chapters, if you will, where you pretty much...
I think there's like 30 levels.
Yeah. Levels is the best way to put it, actually. Where you just kind of like wake up as your character, and you're in a situation and you have to resolve that situation, pretty much kill everything.
They usually tell you with a couple of quick flashes of text on screen, get down.
It was a setup.
Yeah. A lot of action movie tropes and things like that too, both in the language and in the situations. Like one of the most notable levels I know we all had a huge, we all talked about already off the show, is you basically wake up and you're in an elevator and there's 3 guys with guns pointed at you, and it's super tight. It's the elevator size, and you have to kill all 3 of those guys, as well as progress out of the elevator. And you're just like, how am I going to ever do this?
That took me at least 15 tries.
It's hard.
Oh, yeah,
like
definitely.
they definitely, the game is difficult, despite like you have like godlike powers. It is difficult, and a lot of that is that
Yeah, you're Neo in the Matrix, but there's a lot of Agent Smiths.
right, and you can only be hit one time, be it a bullet or a punch or a sword or anything. And you might say like, well, that's fine. You just dodge a bullet, a single bullet. Well, they have shotguns and they have assault rifles that spray in a huge pattern.
And they're coming at you from multiple directions in most of these levels, and you have to be really aware of your surroundings. So you have to know where the enemies might spawn from. You have to reverse direction a lot to make sure that they're not sneaking up behind you, because you don't really hear them coming. All you hear in this game, the sound is really neat, is this sort of like eerie calm.
Crystals. Everything's crystalline.
Yeah, because, time is frozen. And so you just get this sort of desolate crystal cavern kind of sound until things start moving, and then you hear gunshots and you hear things, but it's dead quiet when you're not moving.
You know what the graphics reminded me of? Do you remember the old arcade game that was like a police simulator? You remember what I'm thinking of? It was a light gun game.
Yeah, I think so.
Time Crisis?
No. It's a
It's
thing called like
kind of like
Police
that. It is a
Trainer.
lot like something like Time Crisis, only even more stripped down. But there was one that I used to see in arcades in the 90s that was like Police Trainer or something like that. It had some generic name.
I do know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. And it would have like little generic, basically target dummies for you to shoot at. And that's basically what these guys look like. They're like crazy ruby crystalline target dummies in all these crazy, some of the situations they put you in are like lifted directly from action movies. Like there's a level called Old Boy that's basically right out of Old Boy.
There's one called Fight Club, which, I mean, I wouldn't say it's exactly lifted out of Fight Club, but that's a very melee-focused level that you're doing a lot of punching and grabbing of objects and hitting.
Those were actually some of my, like the guns were a lot of fun, but some of the most satisfying levels were the ones that were almost entirely like melee based. I mean, basically your control set is either punch, shoot, or throw, or grab, I guess, pick up.
I really love the way that it handles throwing objects, because you can throw an object at somebody to stun them, and you can also when you do that, they'll usually drop their weapon or kind of
up
toss
and
it
at you.
Yeah, and so you can then you can stun somebody, grab their weapon out of the air, and shoot them with it. And in a lot of cases, that's way faster than waiting for your own weapon to be ready again. And then when you see that play back at full speed, it's insane. It's this sort of like kung fu movie, kick somebody and grab their weapon out of the air and hit them with it or shoot them with it kind of moment that it's really satisfying.
I've been waiting to bring that up. Like, one of the best parts of this game is that they play every level at the end for you in full real time. So you see everything that you did, and you're like, man, I am awesome at this game.
It really does make it. And all the while it's doing that, it's showing text over the screen and saying, super hot. Super hot. It's very satisfying for some reason.
Super hot. Super hot. Super hot.
Not for some reason. I know exactly why. You're performing, superhuman badass moves while a robot is calling it super hot. Like, what? Yeah. Like, how much more satisfying could you get?
Yeah, that's one of the things that they kept from the original version of the game, and I don't know why that's so core to the experience, but the robot voice basically saying super hot, super hot, super hot. It's basically it gets me excited every time I hear it.
So one thing I don't think we have mentioned yet entirely about the graphics is that the world that you're working in everything is essentially entirely white. Now you can see the edges around, furniture and everything, but the whole world is not colored. And the bad guys are a bright red. So it's kind of it's a really weird environment to be running around in too. Because it's like very clearly like an office building.
Yeah. Well, there's actually a lot of different, there's a lot of variety to the levels.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they're all kind of this like whitewashed look, but some of them are actually pretty detailed if you look at the models. I really kind of enjoyed looking around and seeing some of the little finer details that they put into things. And also, in terms of color scheme, it's just 3 colors, white, red, and also black. Anything that you can actually interact with, which basically means a weapon or something that you can pick up and throw, are all black. And the fact that it's all so stripped down was a really smart choice, because it's not like you really have to like rush in any way, but I think it really tells you what you need to be paying attention to. And also, it really reminds you that this is a game. And that becomes kind of important when we talk about the story, which we'll have a spoiler break here in a minute. This game is really all about its action. We probably don't need to worry too much about spoiling the quote-unquote story for you, but it has this sort of interesting framing device or meta-narrative that's worth talking about. And if you don't want that spoiled for you, we will have a spoiler break here in a second before we talk about it. But like, gaminess, reminding you that you are a player of a game is very important to this game. When you first sit down to it, the first screen that you see is basically like a file navigator with a DOS prompt. And
it looks like you're maybe signing into a BBS. I think the first thing you see is this chat screen, and it starts to kind of play with the user through these chat screens where you're talking to somebody and they're saying to you, "Hey, have you checked out Superhot? It's the most innovative shooter I've played in forever." And then you type back, and it makes you kind of punch the keys in order to type. But whatever you're pressing, it's going to type out your responses.
Yeah, weirdly enough, it actually reminded me a lot, the way that it sets up the game, of games like Emily is Away or Sibylle or Sibel, however we were pronouncing that.
The kind of environment of, using your computer as sort of the environment of the game.
Yeah, I think that really kind of, it sets up this meta-narrative that we'll talk about in a little more detail after the spoiler break, of reminding you that you are a player of a game. You, the actual real world player, are playing as a video game player, which is a unusual sort of take. But it really works for these games for this game particularly, that I think wants to kind of reinforce the gaminess of the game. It makes the fact that you're playing through a bunch of really stripped down, very episodic levels that aren't really strung together in any serious way. It makes that feel perfectly natural because, of course it is. Of course it is. It's a game.
Yeah, they're levels.
Yeah.
And the computer you're signing in on is, it looks like some kind of computer enthusiast's computer. It's full of little Easter eggs and stuff. There's these little tech demo executables you can run that, display a ASCII 3D floating cube. It looks like a tech demo from like the 70s.
Probably more like 80s.
Well, maybe. But parody type stuff. There's like these unlockable ASCII art, quote unquote, concept art screens.
Yeah.
That basically for every level you complete, it gives you an ASCII art like concept picture. That was pretty funny. If you dig around in art, there's also a folder of porn that it has encrypted so you can't open it.
That's funny.
There's some other weird stuff in there, like Conway's Game of Life is in there, and a couple of other little simulations, stuff I'd seen before in other places. Kind of cool. And then it keeps coming back to this with this sort of chat room that you can sign it. You can actually sign into the chat room and see other people talking. And you get pulled back there again and again, kind of between levels where, the game itself starts to try and get its hooks into you, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they went through, great ends to make it where everything in the game is justified to some degree. Like, there's nothing in the game where you'd be like, well, it doesn't make any sense that my character could do this, or it doesn't make any sense that this would happen. It doesn't make like there's everything is accounted for instead of just. And I think it's an interesting choice to make because part of me wonders like, what if they had just used this mechanic just to make an action game? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what if they just use this and I'm, Johnny Awesome Secret Agent and I start at the beginning and I have this power and they don't even bother to explain it, or maybe I took like a special
Can you imagine
pill.
using this in a traditional game, and then you get to the part between the action scenes where you've got dialogue, and you'd have to keep circling around the
Keep
room
running
to
in
keep
circles,
being able
yeah.
to talk to people.
Yeah, and that's what. So it was an interesting choice for them to like. They really went through great, and we're going to talk about it in the plot part. But they really went through great ends to make it like all of this is. There's a reason why when you don't move, the time is frozen. There's a reason why everything is white and red. There's like everything is explained, and mostly it's all like circles into itself. It's a game about a game kind of thing. But like I do think it was an interesting choice because part of me too was like, man, I kind of wish this was just like a straightforward action game. Like I kind of wish I like had a full on narrative start to end where I'm like a badass superhero and I just get to go run around and be a badass superhero. And you
I
do
mean, on
kind
the
of.
one hand, I totally agree with what you're saying. Like, if this was a game about like the Flash,
Sure.
then it would work. This would be a good way to do that as a gameplay style.
Oh, that's genius. WB, if you are listening, steal that idea.
But also think about all the detail that you'd have to include. I mean, these levels are pretty minimal. They're very small. They are, and the enemies have like no faces or whatever. Can you imagine how corny this would look if they had to like render out like facial expressions for all the enemies? Like, it's just like when you pause your VCR. Sorry, we don't have VCRs anymore. When you pause
Your pirated copy
Netflix
of-
and chill, and you hit the pause button and the actor has like a weird goofy look on their face.
Yeah.
Like, it would be basically like that.
Well, and also like kind of back to Reagan's point too, like everything being white and the bullets being like a big black object on the screen really work because sometimes there's 15 bullets coming at you and you have to kind of like dodge and weave in and out of them. And if like everything was fully textured, it might like they'd have to make the bullets like bright yellow or something to really stand out to make it so like and it works, and that's what I mean, like everything is justified.
It all works together.
Yeah, and this isn't a criticism. It's just something that I was thinking about while playing it. Like I kind of wish that I had this mechanic in like a full-on start to finish action game, as well as this awesome kind of like meta, piece by piece, level by level game. Like I loved it. I want to see this used in more ways.
I can't imagine other folks not widely stealing this as a power up in other games now that this is, out there.
What I'm hoping is that mod tools are available and people out in the, community can make levels and can do stuff like that. Because I think
add more weapons, things like that.
Yeah, like I would love to see this. Or just like, hey, Superhot people, make Superhot 2,
make some DLC. I will buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of that, actually, we should probably talk, this being the short game, we should talk about the length and some of the modes. The game is, if you're playing the story mode, which is basically what's available to you when you first start the game, it kind of functions as a tutorial for the first third, and then you just get a increasingly insane single player. Well, obviously it's all single player, but increasingly insane levels. That whole single player campaign will only take you about 2 hours, which seems kind of short. And that's coming from me.
Yeah, it took me about probably 2 hours plus a little bit of time that I spent, kind of screwing around. Literally, when we get to talking about the levels in specific, the last level. Well, I guess we're not going to break down every one of these 30 levels, but the last level has this moment where you're being attacked, right? And every guy you kill, it has one of the only times that you have an objective other than kill everyone. And as you kill people in that level, it says, "Don't bother." And because this game is one where, it has themes of kind of struggle against this sort of system, struggle against the game as a system, I was like, I'm going to fucking bother.
Yeah.
So I sat there killing my way through that level, which is basically an endless mode. I sat there killing my way through that level for fully 45 minutes before giving up.
You know what's really funny too is so you two had a Slack conversation going about the game before I had completed it, so I was kind of ignoring it, but I did see you pose the question to Reagan, how long did you bother? And so I thought for sure, like, oh man, I didn't read anything else after that. Just how long did you bother? So I was like, okay, so surely there's something. So when I finally got to that level, I was like, well, I'm gonna bother as long. And I probably did it for a half an hour. I went for so long. It's like, okay, this clearly is nothing. You can just do it forever.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe there is, because I'm sure that the developer thought about has something in there if you make like an insane number of kills. But the good thing about that was that this is a game where the thematically, it's you as the player are having your will sucked away by the game, right? And it's telling me, don't bother. And I'm like killing this endless wave of enemies. And then finally, I'm like, Jesus Christ! It's like the middle of the night. I just complete the level the way it's supposed to be done, which you could have done instantly from the start. And then the game rewards you by like giving you some of the most fun fights in the game, and then ultimate freedom. And I'm like, oh, that feels so good. It was a great moment of catharsis.
Why did I bother?
Yeah. Okay, so we really do need to hit a spoiler break before we get too much farther into that. But to clarify what Shane is saying, when you complete the story mode, you unlock endless mode. And the endless mode of this game is phenomenal. It's the best content in the game. And it's the best thing to unlock at the end because, you've just played through all of these very contained scenarios. The endless mode is where you start to become really creative with it. They have some of the best levels that the game has to offer, and basically they spawn wave after wave of people coming at you, and you just take them on in very creative ways.
Yeah, it gives you a kill counter, and the levels are good, and they have challenge modes that are unlocked. That's another way they add replayability, is that you can play through any of these 30 missions with all these different really creative challenges. I haven't unlocked all the challenges yet, but I've unlocked a few of them. One of them that I'm loving is called Full Stop, where, instead of having time sort of slowly creep forward, time stands completely still when you don't move, but every gun only has one bullet in it, and the enemy bullets fly a lot faster.
Wow.
But there's other fun ones. Like the first one you unlock is a katana only, which is really fun. There's one that you unlock called AD 2013, which is play Superhot like it's 2013.
What does that even mean?
It's more similar to the original. Like all the bad guys are wearing sunglasses, and you're wearing sunglasses, so things are a little bit darker. And your punches kill in one punch. There are no melee weapons and no throwables. So it's more like the original version of the game.
I gotcha. We were wearing a lot of sunglasses in 2013.
There's a ghost version, which, we haven't talked about Hot Switch, but it's available on all the levels. You get one punch kills, and there's no guns. There's a Full Stop that I said. There's throwing, which is there's no shooting. Every thrown weapon kills, and your punches do very little damage.
Awesome.
Stuff like that. And there's also speed runs and all kinds of stuff to unlock. I think that they really have... They give you a lot to do once you've completed the story. So I think people that are worried about this game being too little content, it just depends. It depends what kind of content you're after. If you're after story, yeah, this is very, very minimal. But if you're after gameplay, replayability, this game seems like it gives you a lot.
Yeah, personally, I thought that the story was okay, and that didn't really bother me at all.
Yeah,
like I think they really went for it with the story, and I respect that. I think it was executed fine. It didn't really pull me in as much as maybe some other people. But regardless, like that is something that they were just doing it again, I think, just to justify the world. But the action is where it lies, and the endless mode is where it's at, because that is so much fun.
Yeah, the story is really just there to thematically support the action game, and the action game is so engrossing. Everything about playing this game is so extraordinarily fun, at least for me, that like. Yeah, I think that the story works really, really well, but it's incredibly minimal. So we're going to have a spoiler break here in just a moment, and we'll talk about how that sort of framing device or meta narrative supports the fun gameplay without being a huge distraction or taking up much time, because really it is just maybe 2 hours.
Also, I was able to play this first-person shooter on my laptop with WASD and a trackpad, which is not something I can ever normally do.
Oh yeah,
on a first-person shooter.
That's
so,
really it's actually great on Mac as well. Like, we probably should mention that before we go to spoiler break, in case you're not sure. This game has fairly low requirements. I ran it on my MacBook Pro 15-inch, so it's not like really a high spec machine, and it ran really, really well. It's available on Mac, PC, also the SteamOS Linux type things, and it's on the Xbox One. It's not, at least not yet, on the PlayStation 4. But I would say, being a first-person shooter, you're probably going to want to play this with a mouse and keyboard if you have the option, so I'd probably go that way anyway.
I would like to try it out on a gamepad, and I'll tell you why. I think having kind of walk and run would be helpful. You know, like you have with a left stick on a controller.
That's
I haven't
a good
actually
point.
tried this. I know it's possible to play it with a gamepad on the Mac.
Well, I wonder, because in this game, I think you're always moving at your maximum possible speed.
Yeah, I don't know when I would have ever even had the time to consider, should I move at walk speed or fast speed. It's kind of like, I felt like it was constantly darting in between places. You know, like, get over there, stop. Pick that up, stop. I didn't even bother to plug normally I play most games at this point with my DS4 plugged into my computer. And I didn't even bother with this game because I felt comfortable, no problem with just trackpad and keyboard.
Yeah, and I used the Bluetooth mouse, worked great. So yeah, however you play this though, definitely give the game a try. It is $25, which I think is actually pretty reasonable, although some folks have complained about the length. I think that's crazy if you enjoy the endless mode, which I think is the best part of the game.
Our listeners will be unsurprised that we have dismissed complaints about a game being not enough time for your money.
It's kind of the point of the show.
And $25 is totally reasonable for this incredibly polished game. That is,
it is on the higher end of the games that we normally talk about, generally price range, but that's fine.
Why, I would even go so far as to say that you have to check out this game. It's the most innovative shooter I've played in years.
It is certainly the most innovative shooter I've played in years.
Yeah, you have to check this game out. It is the most innovative shooter I've played in years.
Superhot.
Super hot.
Superhot.
Hot.
Superhot.
Super. Hey, have you heard about this game? Let me send you the EXE.
Spoiler break. Spoiler break. Spoiler break.
You know what I loved in this was the levels where you are jumping over cars and shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there's that one part where there's like a dump truck coming right at you.
And you have to get into that nook and then kill the guy with the machine gun.
Yep.
Yeah. I also liked the drop into the train.
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah, like it sets you up in these situations where you have from the outset an instant to react. Really, really cool.
Yeah. And I love that. So it's like there's that guy and there's a shotgun like falling towards you. And so you have to grab the shotgun, fall into the train, and then there's 3 guys with guns right there waiting for you.
Oh yeah. There's the one where you're in a parking garage and like there's a car coming straight at you. And you have to jump over the car or jump onto the car.
Jump onto the car, yeah.
And then if you ride the car back, somebody gets out of the car, and you can kill them and take their gun. And then there's 5 other guys all around the parking garage.
Did you kill anybody by jumping on them, by landing on them?
Yes, I did that once in endless mode. Yeah, if you jump down on somebody. Some of my favorite ways to kill people in this game, of course, jumping down on them is great. But also if you throw your gun at them, and then stun them, and then run up and take their gun and kill them. That's so satisfying.
Oh, it's forever satisfying.
It's just unlimited satisfaction right there.
And it looks awesome in the replay. I think my favorite kill though that I had, and I think I sent this to you guys in the Slack channel, but like there's that level where it's I don't know if it's not exactly like Scarface, but it kind of looks like it, where there's like the big fountain down in the middle, and there's
Oh, yeah.
two
Get
staircases
down.
up on the side. Yeah, like you jump down it and then they come back. So I was all the way down at the back, and there was a guy up top shooting like the machine gun down at me, and I was hiding behind the statue, and I whipped around and threw my katana and hit him in the head from like 40 feet away. It was like the perfect throw. I could
So let's
probably
talk
never
about that
do it again.
katana. Oh, for real, man.
Oh, man.
The katana, like, I fell in love with that on the katana challenge because it's so versatile. Like, you can throw it. It doesn't have like crazy good range, but you can throw it and make kills. You can throw it through people and kill others. So if you line up 2 enemies, you can like get 2 kills with the katana throw.
Nice.
It's so fast. Like, you're always waiting between you. We haven't talked about what I thought was a kind of really clever use of the crosshair as you wait for your gun to be ready to fire again. The katana, you can throw it or you can slice pretty damn fast.
Yeah.
And also with that damn sword, if you have bullets coming towards you in the air, you can slice them in half.
Yeah. So fucking cool.
I did not know about that. I saw that when I was kind of prepping for the show. That never occurred to me. I never actually did that. Sliced
Yeah, there's a
bullet in
lot of
half.
little tactics that didn't occur to me until I started watching some replays on killstagram.com, which is a great name.
Oh, yeah.
And one that I thought was amazing that I can't wait to try is that I saw this guy who had this tactic where if he saw it was endless mode and he'd have a group of people coming towards him, he'd throw the katana at the one at the back of the group, then hot swap to that person before the katana hit,
Yes.
grab the katana out of the air, and slice the other ones. And I was like, that's insane.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
So we haven't mentioned hot swap yet, and I hadn't mentioned this as my favorite strategy for killing people, but this is exactly what I do. Is I like to, use my gun or whatever until it's empty, or if I've got a katana, whatever, just throw it at a guy. As if you hit somebody, they drop their weapon. Normally when you hot swap into somebody, their weapon breaks. And I guess that's just so that you can't hot swap into whoever has the best gun or whatever. But if you knock the gun out of their hands, you can hot swap into them while the gun is still in the air. So you just grab anything. You look for the guy that has the best gun and is in the best position. You throw something at him to knock the gun out of his hands. Before the gun hits the ground, hot swap to that guy, grab the gun back out of the air, and unload on everybody.
That's
so
pretty
fun.
awesome. Did you guys like the shotgun or the rifle?
The shotgun.
Pistol.
Yeah, I actually got really fond of the pistol, but if I had a choice every time, I think I would go with the shotgun.
Yeah. The shotgun, it's easier to aim. And I think it was actually surprisingly hard to line up shots because people would be moving left to right. And without the sort of natural understanding of speed that you get from seeing things in motion, it's very hard to tell how far to lead people. So with the shotgun, I was getting shots pretty reliably.
I really like that there. The you're making like tiny calculations, like okay, he's right here, he's moving left, I'm this far away. I think if I shoot right here, an inch on the screen to the right of where he is, it'll connect with him.
And then wiggle around in space for a second to see if it
to move forward and
walk into a wall.
backwards.
Yeah. So now that we're post spoiler break, we should talk a little bit about the story of the game, which I think is actually like incredibly minimal, but I thought really successful at sort of giving the game a theme, and it kind of needed a bit of a theme to kind of tie it together. So in fiction, in the world of the game, you are a player sitting at your computer and a friend transfers you Superhot.exe, which is an exploit that allows you to access the game, an innovative new shooter. And so when you fire up Superhot.exe, you begin playing Superhot, the game within a game that is the game. And it's kind of implied that you're playing this through some sort of, like that it's connecting.
Yeah, it's signing you into their system.
Yeah, and it's the system is more than meets the eye. You're not just playing the game, you're logging into the Superhot
Hive mind
mainframe or system or something.
Yeah.
It seems to be virtual reality, and it seems to be the more you progress into it, the more you see that there's actually some sort of malevolent goal behind Superhot. It's not just a game; it's some kind of networked system, and its goal is unclear. But it's kind of got this very 90s feel to it, to its intentions, which is like, oh, the mind is software, the body is disposable, and
Like the core of the game system is capable of converting a human brain into data, I guess. And so it's trying to absorb real brains by having them voluntarily put their mind into this game,
Yeah.
basically.
like by playing the game endlessly forever, you are giving up yourself and your ability to, you're giving up your free will into the game. And actually, I think that sort of the mechanics kind of support this. Like the when it adds that body swapping mechanic, the hot swap, pretty late in the game, it's kind of, that's supported by the narrative. It's sort of reinforcing bodies are disposable, the mind is software.
Yeah, you don't need your body. Yeah, if you've put your brain inside of our system, which is really not the right way to say that, but if you've upload your mind to our hard drive, then you don't need your body, right?
Yeah.
Look, you can just pop between any body.
Yeah, and the
Doesn't
farther
matter.
you get into the game, the more when you do back out of the game, things on your computer system, your little DOS prompt that you're playing around on, the more those things start seeming odd or out of place. So, like, you want to stop playing the game. You within the game, the player wants to stop playing and goes to chat with other people. But when you try to type chats to your friend about the game, saying like, "I can't stop," then the text is always being replaced by
Super hot.
super
hot.
Hey, you have to check out this game. It's the most innovative shooter I've played in years.
Can we just, all right, so if you have not played the game, but you've made it this far into the podcast, the end of the game instructs you to tell people it's the most innovative shooter you've played in years.
Now that we've taken away your will, and you're entirely our creature, go on the internet and tell your friends that Superhot is the most innovative shooter you've played in years.
That's why we've said it like 45 times into this podcast. I just feel like we
specific words to say.
Yeah, I feel like we had to say that because there's definitely some people who are listening.
Yeah, this is something that I actually thought was really incredibly
really
genius
funny.
about the game, because
It's really funny.
I mean, that moment at the end it's kind of hilarious because it's the game commenting on its own virality, while also it totally works within the meta narrative. So like this is the game trying to gain new players in order to control more minds, but also it's kind of a commentary on how this game, Superhot, spread from its 2013 demo version. People went nuts about it, and they were telling their friends on the internet, "You have to try this. It's the most innovative shooter I've played in years." And they kind of wrap that into the narrative of the game.
Yeah.
It's really clever and, frankly, kind of funny. And it's why I did immediately want to go out and tell all of my friends that this is the most innovative shooter I've played in years. True or not. And, frankly, I think it's probably true.
It's probably true. And it's kind of fun, too, to like, so, from my experience was, I played it like right behind you guys, right after you guys. You said it to Shane through text message or through the Slack channel. I was like, wow, that's a pretty ringing endorsement from Reagan. And then I finished it. I'm like, oh my God, damn it, I fell for it. So while we've been recording this, a buddy of mine who I was hanging out with earlier today, I was telling him all about Superhot, just texted me and he's like, hey, what's the name of the game you're talking about? I said, Superhot, it's the most innovative game shooter I've played in years, because he's about to buy it. And I can't wait for him to be like, you son of a bitch.
And it's funny because I don't feel like I was misled by that. But
No,
this is
fine.
probably the smartest piece of in-game like viral marketing I have
absolutely.
ever seen.
It's
like, hats off to them.
I didn't exactly go on and say those words, but I did tweet a lot about the game. I was legit excited about it, and
Yeah.
I do believe that it's one of the most innovative shooters I've played.
For those who have played it, it's funny, and you're like, oh, haha, they beat it. I get it. And then for those who haven't played it, it's a ringing endorsement of the game.
It
It's
really
the most, so it's like you're kind of in. It's kind of an in joke as well as just a really nice thing to say about the game. So
Yeah.
whenever people put it online, like even if they're doing it like a joke, oh, the game told me to do it. Everyone who hasn't played it just saw, Joey Twitter guy say this is the most innovative shooter I've played in years. Well, I think I want to play that.
Incredible.
It's like it's like a self-propelled marketing scheme. It's great.
Yeah, which in a sense thematically perfectly works with the themes of the game.
And they've also set up their own social network, Killstagram, which I think is so only partially active right now.
It's still in beta, but you can anytime you record your kill, every kill you do is recorded, and then you can edit those and post them to Killstagram. And I haven't done a lot of that yet, but I've really enjoyed watching the ones that I've seen on there. Oh, we should also talk a little bit about some of the secrets in the game. And, you can immediately find there's some kind of neat secrets in the computer. We kind of talked about those already, but there's also secrets in the levels. And once you've completed the game, you can see which levels you found the secrets for and which ones you haven't. So it kind of gives you a little bit of reason to go back in.
Yeah, for every level, you can kind of escape the level, which again, I feel like reinforces the feeling of like being trapped within this game. But if you find the right kind of pile of bricks to jump on, and then you make your way up to some awning or whatever, and then climb out of a building, you'll find yourself outside of the level, kind of like you will in a lot of games. It reminded me of that moment in the Stanley Parable where you find that you can actually jump out of a window. It tells you go left or go right, but you can actually jump out of a window, a third option, and you fall into this plain white void, and you realize once you get down there, oh, wait, they actually do have something down here for me. Each level here has some way where you can find some sneaky way out of the level. And when you get out, you'll find these little computer terminals that allow you to ask one question about Superhot, kind of one question for the system. Things like, what is Superhot? And I only found probably 6 or so of these. So there's probably there's plenty of secrets I don't yet know, but it gives you a little more background on what is Superhot, who is the player, what is going on. Really interesting stuff, and just sort of a fun reason to revisit. I think it kind of reinforces that feeling of like escaping as well.
So many different ways to play this game, the endless mode, the challenges, and even these secrets.
So I guess the last thing that I really want to do is brag about some of my high scores in endless mode and compare them to you guys. That's really what this game's all about, is that endless mode and getting your high score up so you can compare it to your friends. Did you guys play a lot and unlock a lot of the endless arenas?
I probably played about 3 hours of the endless mode, which is, a lot considering that the game's entire length was only about 2. And so I don't think I've unlocked that much. I played the first endless mode level again and again and again. And for quite a while, my highest score was like 9. And then I finally got it up to like 19. But there seems to be a sort of a cap for me there. I haven't been able to get any higher than that. I've seen online...
Ouch.
I know. I've seen online people getting high scores in endless mode in the like 80s and 90s. And I think that's insane and really cool to watch. I just haven't been able to get there yet.
I'll let you go last, Shane, because you seem to have maybe played the most. But I actually have not played a whole lot of endless mode. But apparently I'm better at it than Reagan, because I've only actually done 4 runs, I think, at endless mode. I did the first level 3 times, and then I did the stairs level twice, so like 5 times or so. Anyway, my high score for the first level is 19, and my high score for the second level is 25.
Nice.
Nice.
I think the thing that was holding me back was I kept forgetting to hot swap. There would be moments where I would be about to die, and I'd be like, oh, crap. And then I'd get shot, and instantly later I'd be like, oh, I could have just hot swapped.
Yeah, because it puts the instructions back on the screen in your dying moment where it's like, eat a hot swap. And you're like, damn it.
Yeah.
I actually, speaking of that, pressing E, I actually hit E early in the game.
And it said
I
not
thought it was
now?
kind of clever. Huh?
It says something, right? I did.
Yeah, it tells you something like, not yet.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, something's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the endless, I think, is the most fun part of the game. There are some really clever levels. Like the third one is a bridge. It's just called Bridge. It's like a I guess, Asian marketplace with little dragon motifs everywhere. Really, really cool, really fun one. A lot of multi-level stuff going on. But my favorite one that I've played is the one called Lobby, which I don't know if you've unlocked that one or not yet, if you guys haven't played that much. But
I have not.
Lobby is just sort of like, really reminds me of that scene in The Matrix where he was shooting up the bank lobby. And I got a high score of 44 on there. It was so fun. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very
super
good.
fun.
Superhot.
Super
Hot.
hot.
Super hot.
Super.
Yeah, there's I haven't unlocked all of them. There's at least 9 arenas. I've unlocked all but 2. There's a warehouse one that's really fun. There's the lobby. There's one called Hall that's just sort of a big long. Well, that was a little different. I'm trying to remember what that one is. I don't remember what that one looks like. Break-In is like a laboratory, really cool. And then there's you said Stairs and Lab 18. So that's some fun play. And that's it.
Yeah, I think that's
Guys.
Go play Superhot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was so excited to play this game, guys. I have to say that again. I played this game right when it first came out because of course it said, it was all over the internet. And ever since then, I have been waiting for this game to come out. And it's finally here, and it's exactly what I wanted and nothing more. It's so perfect.
So check out the game on Steam. It's $25. They had a small discount on it. I think like $22.50 or something like that. That's probably still going on if you're hearing this shortly after we release it. But yeah, I would not wait for a sale on this. If you can spring for it, go for it. It's a great game. And what are we playing next?
Next, I think we're going to be talking about Until Dawn.
Yeah, we kind of shuffled around our order a little bit when Superhot came out because we were so enthusiastic about it and wanted to get this out.
I basically got on Slack and strong-armed everyone into playing this game immediately.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did. It was really cool. Until Dawn is one that I've been wanting to do for a while. It is a PlayStation 4 exclusive, which and it's one of the weirder games in terms of like how did this get made. We'll talk about it on the episode, but if you haven't checked it out, Until Dawn was recently on sale, may still be by the time you hear this episode. I don't know. It's a kind of Telltale style, but not quite, adventure game, playing out in the sort of form and with a lot of the tropes of typical like teens in a scary situation horror movie. It is as spot on with the horror tropes as anything I've played as a video game. And it's incredibly polished and pretty to look at. So it's actually a real showpiece for the PlayStation 4. So if you have a PlayStation 4 and you haven't played it yet, try to pick it up. It's worth the money and time.
And if you listen to the Oxenfree and the Firewatch episode, and you decided you have not heard us say the words spooky and teens nearly enough, then
tune in for some spooky teens.
Yeah.
Yes. So join us next week on the Spook Team. No, you can find our show on Twitter @_shortgame, or you can find our website where we have a feedback form and love to hear from you, your thoughts about the games that we've covered, games that we haven't covered, and etc. You can find that at www.theshortgame.net. I'm your host, Reagan Kelly, and you can find me on Twitter @ReaganK. That's RayGanK. Nate, where can people find you?
Find me on Twitter @NateSTL.
And Shane, where can people find you?
I'm over at 8-Bit Shane.
And thank you guys so much for joining us again on this episode of The Short Game.